Morning, everyone. Welcome to the April 30th, 2015 session of the Prescott Planning and Zoning Commission. My name is Tom Mentzer. I'm the chairman today. The other commissioners here today, we got Mr. Joe Gardner on my right, David Stringer, George.
Want me to finish for you, Tom?
Mr. George Sheets, Mr. Ken Mavrak, and on my left, Mr. Lynn Scamardo. And Suzanne's our secretary today. And this must be a really important meeting because we have the assistant city attorney here today and the chief building official. Whoa. So staff can introduce themselves as you need to.
Councilman Lamerson.
First item of business, I will... Oh, there he is. I looked up and you were gone a minute ago. Mr. Lamerson, our city councilman's here. Thank you. Welcome. First order of business, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Motion to approve.
I have a second.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on it? I have a second, a motion, a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, our first order of business today is RP 14005, a resubmittal, a revision of plat of Kensington Place. And you're going to discuss this, Frank?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Just for the record, my name is Frank Hall. I'm a community planner with the city of Prescott. Gentlemen, this is the plat you've seen, I guess, 2 times before. This is the 3rd revision. The issue all along with the previous plats has been the setback of the garage entrance, which would help with parking requirements. In the past, we had all the lots down to, I think it was like 8 feet. Then we had the 2-story units at 8 feet, and then the other remaining 1 stories, which was the majority, at 22 feet. The applicant has listened to your comments at that meeting and has come back with all residential units having the standard 22-foot setback for the garage door entrance, which would provide the parking that you were looking for in the driveway as well as in the garage. The 4 all-street parking spaces for the community shown as Track D on the plans still exists. That has not been changed. So the applicant has come back hoping for an approval. The fire department still requesting that the hammerhead at the end of the community be posted with no parking signs. And of course, we all know that there's only parking on one side of the street in the community allowed. With that, I'm here for questions, and the applicant's here with the property owner as well. So we have plenty of people here to answer any questions.
Okay, Mr. Briggs, what changes did you make?
Good morning. Thank you for seeing us again. The changes that we've made from the previous submittal is primarily the 2-story unit. As I left the hearing last month, the question was asked, what do we need to do to get this where we need to be able to approve it? And the answer was get all the driveways to 22 feet. With some redesign on that 2-story unit, we were able to push the garage back to allow the 22-foot driveways at all of the properties. So with each of our units, we're meeting the driveway requirements. With the redesign of the 2-story, that also gives us a little bit of different option with number of bedrooms. The 2-story unit could be as little as 2 bedroom units. With some options, they can add a bedroom in place of a den or in place of a community area. So I think our product type is appropriate. It has all different scales from 2-bedroom up to a 4-bedroom unit. Really, I've tried to keep the plat as it is, and from the first time that I saw you, the plat has remained the same width, the same as you saw it from the very beginning. So that's the primary change.
Okay, I have one question. There's not a street profile. We haven't seen one. Where is the 22 feet to? Is there a sidewalk on both sides? Are there curbs? What's the deal?
Yes, thank you. There is a sidewalk on one side of the street, and it is on the side that is parked. It's you can see on the site plan, the right-of-way is offset. It's not centered. There's a nice photograph. Thank you, Frank. That shows the sidewalk is installed as an improvement on the east side of Kensington.
So the 22 feet is to the back of the sidewalk?
No, we made, yes, the back of the sidewalk. Thank you. I measured from the property line.
Okay. And then on the other side of the street, the 22 feet is to the back of the curb?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, a street profile would have helped, but staff didn't require it.
It was laid out on the major site plan, but we didn't ask for it.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions? I've just got one question, and I'm glad Randy's here. We've been doing this a lot of years, and I don't think we've ever approved a single-family housing project with 5 feet between buildings, okay? So, Randy, are we okay here? I mean, I know the fire marshal, I don't know if he's going to have the same statement, but you probably can talk for him.
Morning. My name's Randy. I'm the chief building official. What you're currently looking at is the setback requirements. When the structures come in for review, then they'll have to comply to the building code. So anything over 5 feet is fine. Anything under 5 feet, there are restrictions that apply to that, and those will be looked at when plans are submitted for permits.
Like 1 hour wall, no openings, that sort of thing?
0 to 3, no openings. 3 to 5, there's a percentage of openings. Over 5 is unlimited.
Okay.
So you can go on the line, there'd be a 1 hour wall, but there could be no openings on a wall that was on a property line, which will limit some of their design. But like I said, you're currently looking at the setback requirements, and then when they come in for permits, then we'll do our building review for them.
Okay, what about roof overhangs and projections into that 5 feet?
As long as there's no opening, so they could have a sealed soffit on our sealed eaves would be fine. Plumbing vents will have to be 5 feet.
So theoretically, if you had a 2 foot overhang on both buildings, you could have a 1 foot between roofs?
Yes.
If it was stucco?
It's going to be rated. It'll be a 1 hour rating requirement for that, and it would be allowed, yes.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have any questions. I mean, this thing has been around since, reading a little history, since 2004, guys. It's come before us 3 months in 2004, voted to postpone it. All right, there was a recession. It was pulled. It's come back. January, it was voted down. And at the next meeting, I can't even remember the date. It might have been March or something of this year. Turned down again, 7-0. The history is that, in my opinion, you're trying to pack a ton of density into a lot that's like a piece of land that's not adaptable to it. Now, it's not my business to tell you yours. Do you have experienced developers here, or is this their only project they're ever going to do?
We do have experienced developers, and we do have our own.
And they're willing
here.
to take the risk that I'm willing to go along with them, but I wouldn't invest a dime in it.
Boy, you're tough this morning. Whoa.
And this project has been around for a long time, and the density was approved back in 2004. And with this replat, we're not changing our density requirements.
No, the density hasn't changed, and I think these are the kinds of projects we're going to see more and more in the future. Higher density, patio homes, single-family homes, because that's the way the economy's going. And on this particular project, yeah, we have been over backwards. That 8 foot setback we're giving you from the house to the property line is pretty unusual, but and the 5 foot between buildings is pretty unusual. But I think that's the way we're going to be going in the future. We need moderate priced housing. That's the only way you're going to get it. Commissioners?
I think the architect and developer should be commended. I think you've done it backwards to try and accommodate our concerns here. I think you have, on the third try, I think you have accommodated at least the concerns that we've articulated. So I think you should be commended. I'm inclined to support this.
Okay, we can approve this today, right?
I got a which side of the street is going to be posted as no parking? You know, I know that you can have a rule that says no parking, but they'll always park on both sides. So is that going to be posted? And do the CC&Rs for the HOA in here say that there's only parking on one side? Do you allow overnight parking on the street for your CC&Rs?
Right, there would be on one side of the street. It's the side with the sidewalk, or the east side of the property. The street itself is a public street, and because of the width, that allows the parking overnight on the one side, but not on the other. I'm not sure if the side that doesn't require parking is signed. Is it?
I don't.
Right, so the hammerhead at the north is striped, is signed as a fire lane. But there's no physical sign that says no parking. There's a fire lane sign, and it's red curbed. And then, so right now, there is no parking sign on the west side of the street.
But they'll have to do that, won't they? Otherwise, people will always park on both sides, and fire trucks can't get through the middle. And
We can. I'm not sure the city requirement for that kind of parking or signage, but we can certainly add that signage if necessary.
Any further questions?
I'm comfortable with it. I'm so pleased that you did, Mr. Briggs came back and went along with the setback issue, because that was a serious issue here. I'm really pleased that Randy's on top of that setback thing, because that was, for the side setbacks, that was a real concern, the tightness of it. But it sounds like he's looked at this a couple of times, and if I know Randy, you're not going to get away with a lot. So, my only question is, and it didn't even dawn on me until just now, is a private street. Will that gate be gone? Will your gate? You had a gate out front there.
There is a gate currently on that property. It met the requirements back in 2004 for pull off from Blooming Hills. So there's a way you can pull off of the hill or off the street before you hit the gate. I've never seen that gate closed.
I was going to say, how does that work with a public street when you have a private gate?
Can't have a gate.
It's interesting that the gate is on a public street. They did meet the requirements, as Mr. Briggs said, for the pull-off and the gate at the time back in 2004 when it was approved. The road is a public street, however, so they apparently don't close it, but I don't think there's any history of asking or having it removed, because it was put in and approved back in 2004.
Shouldn't there be something official saying the gate must be kept open?
Yeah. Maybe our city attorney could chime in on this, because we had a situation over in the west side area there, the street that was chained off. Downer Trail. And that was a public street that was chained off. So.
Right. Yeah, just talking to George a little bit on the history of this. Apparently, it started out as a private street and turned into a public one. We joke in the office that we've become kind of the law firm known for gate litigation, and gate and things like that. I think it's an issue that'll get resolved when the plans come for permitting. Right now, if it's a public street, it obviously can't be gated off. So we'll have to some way figure a way to maybe have the thing removed or
something legally.
Yeah, but
or
right
something
now,
in writing.
Right now, they don't legally have the right to close the gate.
Okay.
If they did, we have a stellar record on gate litigation.
Okay,
And Frank, does any of that need to be in somebody's motion?
I don't believe so.
No. Okay, thank you, Mr. Briggs.
Thank you.
Anybody in the audience like to speak to this issue? No? Well, then I'm going to close the public hearing, and I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. You guys are good to go? Okay, item number 3. RZ 15-001, request a rezoning, general plan amendment, and Gail Gardner neighborhood plan amendment. Okay, Frank?
Yes, sir. Excuse me. Thank you. As you said, sir, the rezoning request is for 530 Fairgrounds Avenue. The applicants are requesting to go from single-family 9 to neighborhood-oriented business. There's really a 3-step process in this request. It's the rezoning itself, a general plan amendment, followed by or simultaneously with a Gail Gardner neighborhood plan amendment. As you can see, the property is highlighted there in the little red outline on Fairgrounds, right on the corner of with Gail Gardner. It's about a 1-acre parcel. Currently, there are 2 homes on the property. The applicant is asking for the rezoning to neighborhood-oriented business to install or build some sort of a dance barn, dance studio type facility, a commercial facility on that corner. The proposed use for that site is permitted by the Land Development Code, Table 2.3. The 2003 general plan designates this site as low to medium residential density, 1 to 7 units per the acre. That is why there also has to be an amendment to the 2003 general plan. The Gail Gardner neighborhood plan, I'll show you this is the typical zoning. As you can see, there's multifamily medium where the fairgrounds is, and the rest of the site all the way around it is surrounded by single-family zoning.
In what year was the Gail Gardner neighborhood plan done?
2000.
Okay.
This is the applicant's preliminary site plan survey. It able to topographic survey, but really it's a site plan very early in its stages, showing the proposed location of the building with some parking, and to the south, the 2 residential units that they would like to retain on site. The site plan, of course, if the rezoning is approved, would come through a site plan review process by city staff. This is showing the project again with the similar low to medium residential density in the 2003 general plan, and I guess it looks like blue on my map, it looks like gray on the screen, and the parcel is outlined in red. This map is from the 2000 Gail Gardner neighborhood plan, and as you can see, the zoning is the zoning prior to the adoption of the current zoning, zoning alphabet as we like to call it. But you see, as you see, RA9, RA35, those are all synonymous with today's zonings for single family 9, single family 35, and the like. But X marks the spot right here. And as you can see, even back then, the neighborhood was planned as residential in the 2000 Gail Gardner community neighborhood plan. When reading the 2000 Gail Gardner neighborhood plan, I cut out some excerpts to put in your staff report that show you, encouraging reinvestment in the neighborhood through development of single-family residential on Fair Street. Future development on the second bullet there, second item, they, meaning the residents, believe that Gail Gardner Way would remain a residential type street. Neighborhood participation and notification. The community was actively involved, from what I understand, in the development of the Gail Gardner neighborhood plan, and they just wanted to make sure that they kept in the loop over time as things happened along Gail Gardner. And of course, we did advertise and send out letters and posted the property as required. So, gentlemen, that's basically the summary of the proposed rezoning. If you have any questions, I'm here. As you know, the applicant is requesting, again, the three-step process, the rezoning itself, an amendment to the 2003 general plan, which is the one currently adopted, and the amendment to the Gail Gardner neighborhood plan.
Okay, the Gail Garden neighborhood plan in 2000 basically was a cooperative effort between the planning department and the neighborhood, right?
Yes, sir.
And it essentially said, look, we want to maintain a residential quality of our neighborhood south of Fair Street. Is that pretty much it?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions?
Well, would this use have to be done with the rezoning, or, you know, such as the fairgrounds is residential? Does it have some kind of use permit to operate in the manner it does? I mean, could this be handled but with just a use permit of that existing zoning?
No, sir. It would have to, for this to be a permanent commercial business, it would have to be, have the rezoning and then the two amendments to the two plans. And the fairgrounds is grandfathered in. It's multifamily meaning, but it's predated the zoning.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
from the county zoning,
Oh,
right?
that's a county zoning?
Well, it was originally as residential, right?
Yes,
Years
sir.
and years and years and go, so it's never changed. Kent?
Frank, there was mention of a dance hall for this location.
Yes, sir.
But what we're being asked to do is look at the changes and for an NOB zoning.
Correct.
We're not really, the use is not relevant to us.
The uses, and that's a great question. The applicant is proposing the dance hall, but we have to also remember that neighborhood-oriented business allows many types of businesses. So the rezoning to NOB, neighborhood-oriented business, would permit all the other uses as well, should the dance barn ever cease to exist or go away.
But an NOB zoning is, the intent of NOB zoning is to be compatible with, more compatible with single-family residential, right?
Correct.
Than any other commercial zone?
It's sort of the second level of intensity. We have residential office, which is a transitional zone between residential uses and more intense commercial uses. So residential office would be the, quote, least intense commercial, then neighborhood-oriented business would be next.
So if we're not really paying attention much to the dance hall particular use that's being suggested currently.
Correct, but in order to do a rezoning, there has to be some sort of expectation as to why am I even needing to apply for this.
And can you serve liquor in this zoning?
That would be up to the liquor board, but I believe you could, yes.
And do we know what kind of dancing?
No, sir.
That could have an impact on some of the guys. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, George, in working on the new general plan, was there any consideration of any change in this general plan zoning in this area?
No, because this was in process, we felt it was appropriate to go through the full review, public review process, rather than abbreviating that process by simply including the land in the general plan as something that might be incompatible with the other plans and with the current zoning.
Okay.
So we've left it to this process, which is appropriate.
Okay, that's good. Any other questions, commissioners? Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public. Anybody like to comment on this issue? I'd like you to give your name and address.
Good morning. My name is Gwen Parker, and I live at 511 Doherty Street, which is basically located behind the property that's in question. And my concerns are, I definitely am opposing it. It's a residential neighborhood, and I think it should stay residential. That's part of the reason that we moved into that neighborhood, that everyone comes to that neighborhood, drives through, and comments on how, you know, quiet and peaceful and inviting the neighborhood is. If this turns into a commercial business, rezoned for, and I don't care if it's NOB, what does that mean exactly? What kind of business would that be? Is that written out anywhere? I mean, where do you draw the line?
No, it has. There's a list. It's neighborhood-oriented business. It's supposed to be compatible with
Yeah,
residential.
But
And there's a list of that the planning department has that tells you what can go in there.
okay, well, I'd like to know what that is. I mean, because I don't want a restaurant ending up there. I don't want anywhere that serves alcohol ending up there. It's hard enough to raise children and keep them out of that kind of environment, especially since we have become the rehab community, you know. So anyway, I just don't think it would.
Okay.
Mr. Duke was very nice, and I think, and we met one day and discussed it a little bit, and he did say that, or mentioned rather, that, you know, if for some reason it didn't, or that they were planning on using it as a source of income. So there are only 11 parking spots there, and that is a concern. I mean, if you use it as another source of income and you rent it out for, say, a wedding reception, something like that, you would certainly need more parking spaces than 11, I would think, anyway. And so are we going to be parking on the road, which really is not allowed? And that would create a lot of havoc on Gail Gardner in that area. I don't know if I'm sure you've all traveled north from Gurley Street on Gail Gardner, and you've taken that curve that comes around. That's a very dangerous curve. Coming out of Doherty Street, trying to even turn right, turn left is very dangerous, but trying to turn right is even hard. People just come wailing around that corner. I don't know why, but anyway,
Okay.
So it would, you know, a lot of reasons, lots and lots of reasons.
We got it.
I've lived there for 20 years, and I've talked to many neighbors. I walked around and spoke with many neighbors to find out their feelings about the whole thing, and unfortunately, a lot of them could not be here today. But there are a couple who are here.
Okay.
And basically, we all feel the same way. We'd like to keep it in, you know, a residential neighborhood, so.
Well, I think in 2000, I think the residents made that clear. They'd like to keep it in the Gail Gardner plan. Okay, Thank you very much. I'm going to back up a little bit here, guys. I want to hear from the owner. I should have done that first. And kind of explain what you guys have in mind and what you're planning and what you'd like to see.
Right, and the type of dancing that's going to happen, right?
Okay. I need a name and an address.
Sure. My name is Earl Duque, and my wife, Delisa Miles. Our address is 2345 Skyline Drive. And my wife and I, Delisa Miles, were the owners of the 530 Fairgrounds. Together, we're applying for the rezoning from SF9 to NOB. And what we intend to do is start up a revenue-generating business that will provide a venue for movement arts. So that's social dance, small dance performances, music and theater, fitness and health, such as yoga, and other social gatherings such as business seminars, neighborhood meetings, and workshops. We believe that this revenue-generating business will benefit the Gail Gardner neighborhood and Prescott as a whole by becoming one of the several arts-based businesses that increase the quality of life for those of us who live here, and also attracts people to visit everyone's hometown. We purchased the property in November, directly from the daughter and son of Velma Rose Young, who had been the owner of the property since the late 60s. On that 1 acre parcel you see up there, she raised her family, boarded and traded horses, a commercial operation, and maintained an organic garden for decades that fed both others and delighted a lot of people who went by. But before we go further, I'm going to introduce myself a little bit more, who I am and where I come from. I have a PhD in mechanical engineering, which I earned while I was a full-time research scientist at NASA, and just a NASA facility just south of San Francisco. I had grown tired of living in densely populated areas and wanted to get to a quieter place. So 15 years ago, I became a professor at Northern Arizona University, where I became a tenured professor. I left NAU in 2006 and became manager of a research and development company, and I run all that operations from here. And so my major company that I consult with are companies like Toyota and Boeing down in Mesa. I manage over 20 individuals distributed throughout the United States using telepresence, and I also run all that from an office that I rent from JT over on Montezuma Street. I've been here since 2011. Now that's what I do during the day. In my free time, I'm an active social dance person who teaches and organizes events for various dances. And here's the different dances: swing, salsa, Argentine tango, and ballroom. When I lived in Flagstaff, I was a founding member of the local USA Dance Group, which is an advocate group for all forms of social dance. I was the treasurer and president, and during that time, I brought to Flagstaff several world-renowned master instructors and even organized collaborations between visiting musicians and the NAU Symphony Orchestra. I started the summer outdoor dance event, Dancing on the Square, a weekly evening event during the summer months where free dance lessons and an open dance is held in Flagstaff. That event brings upwards of hundreds of people of various ages and backgrounds to learn and dance and to connect with one another. I started that in 2005. It continues to today. I believe that the art of partner dancing should be learned by everyone. Not only is it good exercise, but it also is a great social outlet that allows people from various walks of life to pursue a fun activity and get to know each other. In fact, that's how I met Delisa. Delisa, want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Delisa Miles, and I have a master's degree in dance, and I have worked professionally as an educator and a choreographer and performer for the last 30 years. Earlier in my career, I was a manager of a fitness center in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and I've performed with several modern dance companies around the world. I have taught at Prescott College since 1994 and have developed the dance program there. And one of the classes that I teach is called Choreography in the Community, and it's where my Prescott College students get to interface with different populations of the wider Prescott community. We've worked with Skyview School, Primavera, and Spring Ridge Academy, so my students get to work in a kind of intergenerational way. And I'm interested in continuing that kind of crossover in the community. And my work also has been funded by Arizona Commission on the Arts and has been featured in several national magazines. And as Earl mentioned, he and I met through social dance, and we've taught a range of ages from middle school all the way up through elders. And we'd like to offer a variety of social dance classes to bring back this tradition of a weekly social dance gathering for all ages. And I'm really excited about creating growth for Prescott in the arts, and thank you for your time.
Okay. So, focusing on the property and what we plan to do next, as we mentioned, Delisa and I purchased the property in November, and we believe that this location, as you see up there, is a favorable spot for a neighborhood-oriented business. 3 things to note. It is on a corner of 2 major collector streets, Fairgrounds and Gail Gardner. It is adjacent to the rodeo grounds, just to the west there, and also directly to the east. And directly to the east, the city maintains a facility where it operates heavy equipment and stores mounds of materials such as cinders and gravel. Therefore, the type of low-impact development we're planning will enhance that corner by changing an empty, primarily unused lot into a thoughtfully designed and beautiful building with associated native landscaping. Through the rezoning of this property, we will be able to build and start a business on that site that will provide needed jobs and education in the Prescott community. Now, according to the 2015 Prescott General Plan that was passed just this month, or adopted, Section 4.1, Achieving a Balanced Community, Prescott needs to sustain and build, and then I quote and paraphrase, an environment which welcomes, supports families with children, that attracts jobs, which produce family-supporting income, and promote youth activities and educational opportunities. The activities we plan on our property will provide construction jobs, landscaping jobs, and positions for instructors and operations people to operate the facility. It also provides activities through classes and social events in the movement arts for citizens of all ages. In addition, in Section 4.2, balanced mix of land use, quote, and I paraphrase again, residential land uses often require more in services than they contribute to revenues. Commercial, industrial properties contribute more in revenue than they require in services. Therefore, the mix of land uses must be given serious consideration. Currently undeveloped areas, such as our property, represent the best opportunities to improve and maintain a sustainable balance between these types of land uses. The ultimate effect of sustainability, as mentioned previously, which should be the key purpose of community planning, is retaining the already built historical assets as well as the already protected natural assets. It is our intention to preserve the historical feel of the land through thoughtful, low-impact development and keep the tradition of gardening on the property. The business we intend to start will be centered around a new building. Our neighborhood-oriented business is motivated by what's called the Grange, or Grange tradition. This was historically a farmers association that sponsors social events and community service. The ideals of a Grange fits well with our creating a contemporary version of a community meeting place centered around the arts and is consistent with traditional use of that property, as it has been a horse property and it's also its close proximity to the rodeo grounds. In keeping with this long history of the property serving as home, gardens, and horseland, we are planning to design a building and gardens that is consistent with and complements the neighborhood. We have hired Mr. Michael Furking from Living System Architecture and Building Group. He has lived here for over 40 years and has designed and built several high-quality, high-end homes and commercial buildings. His particular specialties in low-impact buildings that are energy efficient and water conserving. We have completed the first conceptual designs of the property, and if we are allowed to rezone, a major part of our process is to work with the neighborhood to further the design efforts such that it includes the participation of all the stakeholders in the area. Now currently, if you look at just the half part on the north side of that building, and also I want to make a point, there's only one residential building on the property. The other is an old tack room and right adjacent to it. Currently, half the property, the most northern part where the horses were pastured, has been mostly unused since Velma passed away last year. It is our intent to place the new building, yeah, there you can see it. So you can see there's a fence, see how it changes from kind of green growth, and then it's just kind of like a vacant area on the northern part of that property. There you go, right above the 530 there. Where our intent is to place the new business on that northern part of the property, converting that northern part into an income-producing, low-impact development of a building. We believe that this project provides opportunities for business infill that is much needed within the existing boundaries of here in Prescott. So in short, the rezoning of this property from SF9 to NOB offers, we believe, the best use of private resources with the best outcome in economic development for Prescott through the production of revenue and creation of jobs, and also particularly for those of many of us that participate in the arts and also work as a rocket scientist during the day. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, may I address a couple things?
Sure. Go ahead.
First, for the citizen that spoke, thank you very much. The land use table, I can make that available to you, which would give you a listing of all of the potential uses for the site. It looks something like this. Let me zoom out a little bit. And there's about 5 pages of things, but that's not 5 pages of things that can go in the neighborhood-oriented business. So look for this chart. I can make it available for you. My name's Frank, and I'll certainly get that to you or anybody else that would like it. It's also available on our website, but I can certainly provide copies.
Okay.
And I'm sorry.
Go.
A couple more things.
All right.
The applicant's proposed site plan that you saw with the only 11 parking spaces, that is very preliminary. That is only a little box drawn on a map. It certainly, when it goes through site plan review, should this applicant's request be approved by the city council eventually, so there'll be another public hearing. There'll be an extensive site plan review. Probably go through another PAC meeting, and the parking demand will meet our standards for what they want to do.
Well, it looks like they've got plenty of room to do.
They have plenty-
a lot more parking.
Plenty of room, but I didn't want
If
the
they
public to
needed it.
think that was the final site plan.
Yeah, okay.
Now, one last thing. Mr. Geis wanted me to bring up. One thing is that the gentleman spoke as the applicant about the 2015 plan. Yes, that plan's been adopted, but it has not been ratified by the public yet. So that would be the next stage. So we're still operating under the 2003 plan, although what he read was correct and accurate in that adopted plan. In the 2003 plan, the director of the Department of Community Development wanted me to bring up section 4.4, future challenges, balancing community values. Business development, neighborhood, and environmental protection efforts will at times conflict. The change lies in the choices and trade-offs the community must make when values conflict. In making these conscious community choices and trade-offs, community-wide interests and benefits will be the primary criteria for resolving the conflict. Community-wide interests and benefits will be the primary criteria for resolving the conflict. When considering neighborhood conflicts not of a community-wide impact, the concerns of the neighborhood will be the primary consideration.
Okay, my question about the 2015 general plan was that the physical plan has not been solidified yet, has it? I mean, you do that later? Or did you have a... It's fixed.
sir,
Is the general plan for 2015 fixed, the physical plan?
The physical plan has been adopted by the city
Oh,
council.
okay. But it doesn't show any change in this
No, sir.
neighborhood? Okay,
No.
that's the main thing I wanted, because we have to make sure that we're matching this, that we look at the general plan in our consideration. Okay, I'm open to the public. Any, hold on.
My question, but I did have a question of the developer.
Okay, go right ahead. Sure, go ahead, now.
Mr. Decay?
Yes.
I'm favorably impressed with the proposal here, but I do have a concern about what we're being asked to do, because what we're doing, what we're recommending, if we did recommend this, the council will adopt this, it's not going to be restricted to what you're proposing here today. You could change your mind, you could not get financing, you could 2 years later propose something else once this zoning was approved. That's good. So that's my concern. What is to prevent, maybe my question is not of you, but of the staff, what's to stop them from putting in a restaurant or a bar or some of the things that the neighborhood is concerned about? How do we control this?
I will answer. I've heard in a comment earlier that you could condition a recommendation for approval to construct for the site plan to only be for the dance barn. I don't know if years go by how that could be held up, but that would be a legal decision.
You like a developer agreement? Is that what we're talking about?
Matt?
It's not proposed.
No, okay. No, there's not proposed. He's simply saying, is it possible?
Get the top underline. At least one of the ways you can kind of condition the rezoning is upon a specific site plan. And you can also condition upon reversionary zoning conditions. In other words, if you don't pull permits by a certain date, the rezoning reverts back to its original zoning. So those are the kind of the two ways you can condition it. Just tie it to a site plan and do a reversionary zoning condition. You've got to develop by a certain date, or you go back to the original zoning.
Okay.
Can you tie up the property 10 years from now if the rezoning is passed? No. If it's sort of a pure rezoning without those conditions, not going to be able to happen. So those are some arrows in your quiver if you're looking to kind of placate some of the concerns by the neighborhood.
Okay.
May I answer your question?
Sure.
All I can answer today is on our intent, and our intent is to build there and and also to involve all stakeholders within the neighborhood and find out, okay, what is it that works for you guys, but then also, what has to work for us. So I'm totally open to an open process to working with people. And so all I can say also is that we're at step, not one, but step 2. Step 1 was to get together our conceptual plan, work on our business plan, and see, what can we actually make happen here. And then step 2 was to come to you guys for rezoning.
Okay.
Have you given any thought to the size of the building that you're going to be constructing?
Yeah, it's at this current point, it's $140 a square foot, and so the original size was too big, so it's actually coming down. We see that the heart of the building is a dance floor, a dance space that's about 1,000 square feet, and based upon my understanding of the building code, we can fit at most 40 to 50 people in the building. And so I think that's where we're at with budget. And so we're looking at about a 2,000 square foot building footprint.
And there's no thought that you would be serving liquor or food or anything like that?
One of our initial thoughts was to serve food. But then again, money starts to hit you, and it's like, well, the reality is we don't know if we'll be able to do that. And so this initial phase is let's get the operations going based upon the program that we talked about, primarily movement arts and music and things like that.
Commissioners, any questions?
Yeah, I do, of the applicant.
Yeah.
I don't know what a dance barn is. I don't know what your business is. I do know that if we change the zoning to neighborhood-oriented business, we also have the authority in order to put a conditional use permit. And that would allow for what you're planning on doing, and I'd like to know more of what do you do in terms of, is it a teaching school? Is it like the yoga dance studio that's on the corner of Willow Creek Road and whatever it is, it's Fair Street? Is it some type of a facility that normally would go into a little neighborhood shopping center? And how many visits a day would people are you going to have? You mentioned you're going to have potentially some kind of an event with 50 people that could be accommodated inside the building. Well, if they all came two in a car, you got 25 spaces. That doesn't bother me if I look at the rest of the site plan and see that you've got adequate parking in order to accommodate an event where you might have 30 or 40 cars and you're providing. That comes at the site plan stage, not now. So could you give me a little better understanding of what the business is that you want to run? And then we can decide if a conditional use permit tying that property up with a conditional use permit is something that's going to be appropriate.
Right.
I think the unknown of not knowing, are we going to have in and out 20 people a day, and maybe on a few occasions it could be 30, 40, 50 people in a day, or are we talking about something that could generate 300 people at some kind of an event?
Mr. Scamardo, may I?
Yes.
May I speak to that? I don't believe a conditional use permit part of the zoning would be the appropriate way to do that. If you change a dance studio or dance hall that's currently listed in the use table as a permitted use in the neighborhood-oriented business district, if the suggestion would be to change it to a conditional use, a C instead of a P in that land use table, it would change that use for all neighborhood-oriented business zoning districts, not just this site.
All right, so
However,
that's
the
application, Frank.
It's a complication.
Yeah.
The applicant could, though, on his own, propose a development agreement that would limit the uses on that site.
Okay, so there's an alternate way of getting around.
Yes, sir.
My misspeak or whatever.
No, you're good. You're a great idea.
Okay.
But we can't require a CUP on this kind of situation, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I have another question, Frank, while you're standing there. As I understand, because of everything we've gotten from the residents in the neighborhood and the number of responses, that this is going to require a supermajority of the council to approve it?
That's correct, sir.
Irregardless of what we do?
That's correct. Could.
It could require like 6 out of 7 council members.
That's
right?
correct.
Okay, I'm just wanted to clarify that. Okay, anything else? Any other questions to the owners?
Yes.
May I answer your question?
Certainly, I hope so.
Sure, yeah, sure. So, yeah, the idea and intent is to offer dance lessons at the barn during the week. We're looking at Monday through Thursday, with classes being offered throughout the day, and also in the evening.
And the class sizes would be what?
The way things have been working nowadays, be talking probably at the most 20 people for classes. And then on the weekends, there can be a social event, either a Friday or Saturday, and that we're sizing that for 40 to 50 people.
40 to
50, yeah. And then, in addition, we see that the property will be available for rent for special events. We know that there's a need for people to be able to gather and have community meetings, to have workshops, and that's something that we would be offering the property up for rent to host those kinds of events for people.
Okay.
Did you want to say something?
You covered it.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
I got a general idea of what a dance teaching studio is, because my construction company, at the beginning of the year, had the opportunity to redo the yoga dance studio on the corner of Miller Valley, hillside.
Lotus.
When the roof collapsed because of
That was Lotus Bloom?
But I understand what the inside looks at, and also that's in a little neighborhood shopping center, and it's accommodating very well because the people are in and out, and it's not a overload where parking is necessary on the streets. I'm concerned about some of these things that I don't know you could do, like these major events or whatever it is. So I want to thank you for your answer to my questions.
Sure, and the use of the property and the overload potential is something that as we go forward, is something we definitely need to consider during our planning processes.
Okay, but that's when your plans come in, and you're coming in with actual plans to show, here's what we're doing, and here's what we're going to be putting aside for access easements, parking, landscaping requirements, and so forth. Right, Frank?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, any other questions of the owner? Well, we got him here? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
George, is there any plan in the future of doing a new neighborhood plan for Gale Gardner area?
As with most of our neighborhood plans, that's typically driven by changes in the area and interest by the neighboring property owners.
Okay.
If a group of property owners came to us to revise or review the plan, we can do that. We have had property owners in the Dexter neighborhood that also has a community plan like this come to us, and they are in fact working on updating their neighborhood plan.
Okay, that's good. Something for the neighbors to think of. Okay, I'm still open to the neighborhood. Anybody like to speak?
I would.
Come on up.
Thank you.
And just give me your name and address.
Sure. My name is Alicia Lazzarolo, and I'm new to Prescott. I bought the property at 409 Doherty Street, which is right behind where these people want to build their dance studio. I guess my first question is, I've looked all over Prescott when I was wanting to move here. I came here from another state, my husband and I, and there is so much incredible commercial land everywhere that I'm not understanding why these people have chosen such a it's a little family-oriented community to put business that's going to bring traffic, bring all kinds of elements into our little community. Why did they not buy a place in an already a zoned place like that instead of coming in and having to rezone ours? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. No disrespect. Then that's not okay. It's going to generate money for them, but it's going to generate problems for us, and that's not okay. And no matter what you say or people think today, what's to stop others from seeing that and then coming into our neighborhood and until it becomes no longer friendly for families, and people have to start moving out of there because it gets ridiculous, okay? I came from that. I came from Orange County, California, which is, people are running from that because this is what's been happening there. I came here because a lot of things are respected in this state, and when we saw the community and the area and the people, we fell in love with it. That's why I'm here. So I don't want that to start getting Orange County-ish on me, okay? And another thing that I'm having a problem with is, no disrespect to you folks, he commented that the land there is empty, it's not being used. I walk my dogs every day and I'm looking around and I'm loving it and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I feel open, I feel, now you're gonna put a building there and I'm gonna have to go around this building and that's gonna block all of that beautiful area, and that it's right next to the rodeo, which is totally cool, which I'm going to this year. I've never been to a rodeo. This is going to affect our community in a really negative manner, and I already know that. It doesn't matter what is said here or what these people, nice people here, find a place that's already zoned like that. And stop making problems for the people that have been there. This is a historical area, by the way. I don't know if you, this is all a historical area. Why would you want to do something like that to a historical area? So I'm very protective of the state now because I want to make sure that things stay like I've come into it, and this is not good. And we're not happy, and I speak for all of our neighbors. They couldn't be here, a lot of them, because they have to work. I'm retired, and so I'm lucky, so I'm here. And no, it's not okay. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate your comments. That's the reason that we have this commission sitting here, so that your neighborhood doesn't get taken over without any input, okay, from the neighbors. And the fact that there is a neighborhood-oriented plan that was done with the neighbors and the planning department, that's a strong issue. That's a real strong issue. On the other hand, I don't know what you've been looking at, but I've been driving by that lot for 22 years, and it's always been an overgrazed dirt lot. I mean, I don't know if I consider it beautiful, but that's just an opinion, okay?
It's open space, and I love it.
Okay.
It's not a building.
Anybody else?
Get my 2 cents in here first. My name is Sue Manuel. I'm speaking for 508 Fairgrounds, 512 Fairgrounds, and 520 Fairgrounds, which my parents and my grandparents have owned since the 1940s, when it was out of town to live there.
Ma'am, can I have your specific address?
508 Fairgrounds.
Can I have your name again?
Sue Manuel.
Okay.
It is not, no respect to you folks, we talk to them. We have concerns about lighting, noise, traffic. We get enough traffic from people going to the post office over and around to using the shortcut without having more traffic. How are these people going to exit this property in a safe manner? Because both curves are not safe. You can't see around them. I had children, I have grandchildren that live there. My son goes to bed early. How late are your events going to be? Because what kind of noise level is it going to be? Because he lives right next door to that Mrs. Young's house, and we can hear everything that comes from that property. It's just not fair, like she says. It's a nice neighborhood, it's a quiet neighborhood. We like it the way it is. We don't want a business to be there, no matter what it's going to be today. It's not going to be that in 10 years or 20 years or 50 years when I leave it to my children and I'm gone. I don't want it to change.
Do you think that with the traffic and the fact that that's a pretty busy, and it's even been said to be dangerous,
yes, it is dangerous,
corner, do you think anyone would come in and build a custom home on that corner?
A custom home is different because you might have 1 or 2 cars,
But do you
and you
think
could come out.
you think someone would build on that corner with the way it is now?
Sure.
You do?
If I could have afforded it, I would have bought it before he did.
Okay.
But it's 1 or 2 cars, and you can watch out. But if you got 20 cars coming out of there, that's crazy. And to the subject of the business, there are commercial lots that maybe should have been looked into. There are commercial buildings that are empty downtown, out at the Indian tribal land, anywhere, that should have been looked into for another business instead of putting our neighborhood at jeopardy for a business type of business.
Okay.
It's just,
That's kind of beyond what we're doing here today, but
I know,
mean, that's not our decision.
well, I think if you should have the majority of the neighbors wanting this thing in their neighborhood and not wanting it.
Well, that's why we're listening. That's why we're here. Anybody else like to speak to the issue?
Mr. Chairman,
Step
may I-
right up.
I'm sorry. Mr. Geis asked me to make a comment for you.
Sure.
One of the things that may be, given the community concern and the discussion here today, that the applicant mentioned earlier that, the rezoning, the site plan design, and the neighborhood plan amendments and the general plan amendments, sort of in a sequential order. Might be a good suggestion, given the public input today, that the applicants consider maybe having a community meeting involving, like he said he would, involving the community in the site design of the property, so they can get a better grasp of what's really going to happen there prior to pursuing the rezoning. Secondly, I did have a couple letters and emails attached to your staff report, one in favor of the project and one concerned about the project. And I did receive, although I did not print it out, a third email in support of. So there's two support comments from community residents that came to me via mail or email, and one concern. Just wanted to bring that up.
Okay. Well, I think it's a good point. I think the way we're going here today, we're probably leaning towards postponing any kind of action, because I think we do need more information, and I think a meeting between the owner and the neighborhood would be a terrific idea. I wasn't sure if that had happened prior to this, but if it didn't, it'd be, or even if it did, it'd be great to have another one. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Adam Thomas. I live at 928 Wetstein Avenue. I'm a local contractor here in town. I just happen to, several of these folks are customers of mine in that neighborhood there. I grew up here. We go back to the 1950s. I was at Miss Manuel's property about 2 days ago, and it is the most beautiful homestead, Prescott style neighborhood that you could ask for. Being next to the rodeo grounds and the fairgrounds, I can picture a sign that says dance hall / bar, and 3,000 people rushing to it when the rodeo's over, when the county fair is over. It doesn't make sense. You're going to have, it's going to be chaos. I knew the horse's name. We used to feed it apples that grew on that property, and we got in trouble for that one time. It doesn't make sense at all. By the way, Miss Parker that spoke, or if she did, she lives right around the corner. She's raised her kids there. Sue's third generation there, raising a grandbaby there. It's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem for the surrounding people in that neighborhood.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Anybody? Don't be afraid. We won't bite you.
Sometimes. Sometimes. Morning. My name's Alan Cox. I live at 606 Gail Gardner, directly across the street to the north.
Okay.
I'm fortunate enough to be up on top of the hill there with a two-story house, and I do look right down on top of that property. My question, what kind of hours would this thing be, operating? And also, do the owners plan on living on this property? If they're going to build this business in our neighborhood, are they going to live there? If not, I think we need to talk about that. So that's all I have to say.
Well, those are all good questions. I think that's why we need we need more time for some more answers, but we'll talk about that later. Next, anybody else?
Could I come up again?
Sure.
I just wanted to say they were so impressive with who they are, which is wonderful for the community, but I also am a college graduate and from ASU, and I've lived in this community for 28 years, paying taxes and making my contributions. I work in this community. I've been in sales for 28 years in this community, and I've seen many, many businesses come and go. So I just, wanted to make that point. Also, as far as the, just again, the business type, once you open that door to one, there's going to be, we all know. I mean, you've been in this town forever, right? The people of the neighborhood have lived there forever. I mean, many, a lot of older people in the neighborhood. Something else I wanted to mention was that one of our neighbors has just passed away, unfortunately. And the property is directly behind their property. And I was told by another neighbor, and I don't know if it's true or not, but that the couple were in the backyard of this house where the man had passed away, looking at the backyard maybe. I don't know exactly what they were doing there, but so, concerns are real, and we love our neighborhood. We don't want any changes, that's all. It's a residential neighborhood for a reason. All the things they talk about, the conditions and changing the plans that are out there, the programs. I mean, it's a residential neighborhood for a reason. There are many, many other empty buildings in this town. Many empty buildings. Also, to your point on that little dance studio, across from True Value, I go into the pet care center. It's part of my business. And that place, when they've got when they've got performances going on, you can't park in there. That place is jam-packed. You can't find any parking. So I don't know if you haven't seen that, but I run into it many times. So I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Okay.
I don't need to go up. I just had a quick question.
Yeah, we need you on the microphone because it's all recorded.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask, how many of you and any of you live in that neighborhood? I'm just curious. Do any of you guys live in that neighborhood that I live in and that she lives in and they live in? No one does? So maybe that's why, maybe you'll understand how important this is for us, because we don't get to go away when this all starts happening. We live there. That's our homes, that's our neighborhood. That's why we're fighting.
Well, our job here is to see that changes in the neighborhood don't get out of control.
I understand, and I appreciate that.
And I'm sure almost every one of us drives by that corner probably every day. I've done it for 22 years. I'll guarantee you I've been by that corner thousands of times, so I know where it is.
Driving and living in it is two different things.
Probably so, yeah.
Well, what I was basically going to say is we're going to make sure that both the neighborhood plans are adhered to and the property owners get certain rights in this country.
I understand that.
And we have to listen to it and make a judgment call. But we're not only doing it in your neighborhood, but we're doing it citywide wherever something comes in. And it's not a very interesting job, really.
And I understand that. I can appreciate it.
7 of us have put up with it for years.
I can answer that partly for me. One of the beauties of a community like this is its friendly and family nature.
Correct.
And I think most of us understand that. We hear a lot of cases up here. We're not immune. Just because we don't live in a neighborhood doesn't mean we don't understand what the people are going through. And I think what Mr. Scamato mentioned about the person who owns a property has a right to do what they'd like to do with it. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, and it doesn't mean it's best for everybody. But I think the process that we provide here, at least since I've been on this commission, is to let the community speak as much and as often as they'd like, as long as they're fairly polite, which everybody has been. And I think the dialogue is very, very important, not only so that we understand your passion, but we have a set of different rules. We can't make a decision just because you don't want it there. But we can hear your feelings. We have other guidelines, as our city attorney will tell you. But I think the fact is that everybody up here appreciates what happens in neighborhoods. We all know that. So
thank you so much.
And of course,
we're going to hear every bit of it.
Thanks.
And remember, though, we do have to respect everybody's property rights, including yours.
Trust me, I'm a constitutionalist.
And I bailed out of Orange County too.
Yeah, and I'm here for the Second Amendment is respected here, and a lot of things are respected here, so that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Anyone else? Okay, what I think I'll do...
Tom, I've got a couple of questions.
Okay, go, Joe.
One for staff. To me, kind of the elephant in the neighborhood is the county's property, the rodeo grounds. Do we have any idea of their long-term plan? I remember years ago I saw a plan where it was going to be many of their buildings similar to what they built. But and when the county does develop that somewhere, does it have to come through city approval?
Yeah, that's city. It's not
city-owned now.
county anymore.
Okay. I was thinking
It's city-owned now, and we're not aware of any changes. City owns it and controls it.
Okay. And then years ago, I was involved in a rezoning, and it was for anyway, it was a similar situation. And the property owner went out of his way to talk to every neighbor to, come up with a site plan that was as sensitive to the neighborhood, much open space, landscaping, on and on and on, very detailed plan of what he wanted to do, and sold it to the neighborhood first before trying for the rezoning. And if it were just a rezoning, that'd be one thing, but you're also asking for a change to the general plan and a change to the neighborhood plan. And I think that's kind of, that's a tough hurdle. The neighborhood was already spoken, the general plan is spoken, the zoning would need to be changed. I mean, you're asking for a lot. So my perspective is always, things change, but somehow it has to come out as a positive for the neighborhood. And that's a tough one, but without more neighborhood support, it's hard for me to support the changes.
And that's a good point about the general plan. See, one of our primary missions here as a commission is to make sure that everything we do conforms to the general plan, and if it doesn't, it's got to have a really good reason. So, I think we need more information on this. I think the owner could maybe give staff a lot more comprehensive description of what they're doing, or at least put it down in writing where the neighborhood could do it. I think they do. You need to do a neighborhood meeting. I really do. That's nothing we can order, but staff can certainly do it.
The director just told me do it. So.
Okay. That's good. All right.
Motion to postpone?
We're going to recommend, I accept a motion to postpone.
Second.
Okay, do we need a specific date?
Yes.
And I leave the hearing open?
We're going to need at least a month to organize a neighborhood meeting.
Okay.
And certainly the comments from the public.
Do we need a date specific?
That would be May 28th.
May 28th.
I postpone to May 20th, revise the motion.
28th.
28th, I'm sorry.
And leaving the hearing open.
And leaving the hearing open.
Leaving the public hearing open.
Okay. Any discussion?
I'd like to assure ourselves, without revealing too much, my major concern with this application is certainly the location and the traffic. I'm very concerned. That's one of the most unusual. I've never seen it. It's kind of fun if you have a nice car with good, tight handling ability to take both of those S-curves.
Well, you're always looking at the horses that used to be there.
Not if you have a good car that has nice, tight suspension. So, you come through there. We've had mirrors on that one over by West Street to make sure people can see that comes in, and kids love taking target practice at that mirror. My general feeling is, even today, I could vote on this today. I think it's a terrible traffic situation. So if we're going to postpone this, I'd like to make sure that our traffic engineer attends that meeting, because that, to me, is the crux of this issue, the impact on that very unusual street.
Thank you for that comment. I have included the traffic engineer during this comment.
Good.
But he needed more design elements and intensity type things to do a real traffic study.
Well, and that's why the owner needs to give staff a little bit more information.
Frank, who produced this document? It's in your staff report on the traffic that showed there were 65 accidents there within a certain period of time. Was that from your?
That's the next project, sir.
That's the next project.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's over by the shopping center. Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I did have a second, didn't I?
Yep, here, yep.
Okay. All those in favor to postpone, raise your right hand, say aye. Aye? Okay, we'll see you on May 28th.
One opposed.
Okay, one opposed. Thank you all. I'll tell you what, I'm going to take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to get into the final issue.
Mr. Munzer?
Yes.
For the members of the public here today, certainly planning staff's available for anything. We're here 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. My name's Frank. Frank the Planner, as I'm commonly called. And you're welcome to call me, stop in. I can give you business cards. We can do that during the break if you'd like. And I need to give you a copy of the... Okay.
Okay, like I said, we'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll get back to the Wetstein property. Wetstein? Okay.
Talking into this, yeah. Thank you so much.
George, we're having rezone 15-002, request for rezoning, general map plan amendment to the Willow Creek Corridor Plan at Wetstein Avenue.
That's correct, sir. This is a request for a rezoning from single-family 9 zoning, which would allow single-family residents, to multifamily high, which would allow up to 5 residential units on the property. As similar to the previous application before you, this also includes a general plan amendment. Again, not an uncommon step in the process, but it includes both of those steps. This property is also, unlike the other, near enough to Willow Creek Road to fall within our commercial corridor development requirements. So any development that occurs on this property of a non-residential single-family nature would have to meet our commercial code requirements for that. Those are relatively minor. They involve paint schemes on properties and hidden air conditioning equipment and that type of thing. This property is mid-block. As you can see from the site plan attached here, this is Willow Creek Road.
Could we get that door shut?
I think Suzanne went to shush them. Yes. We'll have to identify in the minutes that she shushed them. The roadway goes uphill, so approximately top of the hill, high ground is somewhere right in this vicinity. So it's very much of a slope up and over the hill. Wetstein is one way out at the west end on Gail Gardner. So traffic patterns are primarily a one-way traffic pattern through from east to west.
But it's a two-way street.
The street itself is two-way internally, yes, but you can't get out to, you can't get in from the west side of the property. You can't turn in from Gail Gardner.
Right.
As an example of the existing zoning in the area, the subject property is here. It's a single-family 9 zoning. It is the same zoning as the properties across the street to the south, and similar zoning to the properties across Willow Creek Road on the east side. Property immediately east of it are 2 parcels that are zoned multifamily high, and then an intervening single-family parcel and then another multifamily high parcel to the west. North and south of this property, primarily commercial zoning of one kind or another, either commercial general or commercial regional. As I mentioned just a moment ago, the general plan also would need to be amended as part of the adoption of a rezoning here. Similar situation with the zoning. When the general plan land use map was originally created, any properties that we didn't know were in process of rezoning back in 2003 were automatically assigned the land use designation equivalent to the zoning that was in place.
Okay, you couldn't answer the question of why in the entire general plan of that entire area, only one street was left as single family?
Again,
that's very strange.
Again, what happened in 2003 when we adopted a specific land use plan, the previous general plan from '97 had what was more or less a bubble map. It showed bubbles that showed various areas and how those areas would have developed.
Right.
When we created the specific land use plan that was required under Growing Smarter legislation back in 2003, we started with the zoning that was in place at the time. So the assumption was that this zoning should be carried over to this land use plan as part of the general plan. And we did that throughout the city. The only places we didn't do that were those specific areas that were known in 2003 to be planning for changes. They were primarily on the outskirts of town, primarily north of town.
But it really isolated that street, didn't it?
It is existing in that condition.
Okay, let
It's
me ask
isolated
you
by
one
zone.
more question. When was the multifamily on that street rezoned?
I'm not sure.
Because it's not in my lifetime here.
No, it's very old. It's been pretty much set as you see it today for many, many years.
So basically, let me see if I forgot this right. We've got Wittstein, and it's got multifamily zoning, north, east, south, and west, and we've got one isolated single-family 9 property.
On the north side of the street, you have 2 single-family.
2 or 3.
Okay, but it's basically an island surrounded by multifamily.
It's an island surrounded by a combination of multifamily and commercial. Again, south and north of Wittstein, the streets are primarily of commercial use of one kind or
So if we specifically
another.
looked at this when the general plan of 2003 was going in, at that time a change should have been made in order to make it consistent with the neighborhood.
It could have been done at that time.
End of story.
It could have also been done at the time that the Willow Creek Corridor plan was done. They looked at adjacent properties. In this particular neighborhood, the Willow Creek Corridor plan only went in one lot and recommended the multifamily zoning for that one lot.
That's right.
It didn't go very far into the neighborhood. In some places, it went several hundred
That's
feet
right. It was
in,
only a couple
depending
blocks.
on where.
George, Ken's got a question.
Sure. Yes, sir.
Well, I'll tell you, I look at this and coupled with the other one, it's like, you guys are bringing us some great stuff to deal with. Thank you. But this, to me, I don't know the history of it, but I'm looking at this and figure this was probably the result of spot zoning over the years, where people used to come in and get a parcel rezoned without the consideration that we give today to areas and neighborhoods and whatnot.
Definitely.
I don't know why this whole street isn't multifamily. I think we're going to be facing this again and again and again as each lot in here tries to do something. And quite honestly, when I was out there the other day, yesterday, and I noticed on the south side there is a duplex.
Yes, sir. I believe this property is an actual duplex property. Or I'm pointing at the wrong one. Sorry.
Well,
just to the west of that. This one.
One of those 5.
A lot of the uses there predated our zoning, our current zoning. And one of the concerns and one of the things that I think the Growing Smarter legislation and our 2003 general plan addressed that previous plan didn't address was specific situations like this. Under the old plan, the 97 plan and the bubble maps, it didn't really show anything. There was no guidance for zoning. So when someone came in,
how we got here is not the topic I'm talking about. What we do with this is, and I think we need to look at this whole street differently, and maybe if there's some way to take some action or have some movement made to address the whole street. It's really unusual. The street's odd. It's 2 ways. It's one way out, and thank goodness they did put a one-way thing over in Gail Gardner, because that's an accident waiting to happen. Even in its own state with the one way. We've got, again, Gail Gardner is, it's a meandering, it's a great country street, but it's in an urban environment now. I think we ought to. I'm not sure what to do, how to address one property here when I see 7 other properties that probably need to be looked at.
Well, I agree with you on the face of it, but let's not jump the gun. The residents that live on that street may convince you otherwise.
Oh, I know there's.
So that's why I want to hear from
Tom, but again, we're looking at a proposal from one property owner, but I think the consensus, as Commissioner Maverick mentions, is if those other property owners are paying attention to what's going on in the city, and they want to make a zoning change, and this one is done, they could think that it's going to be probably well worth their effort to make a request for a zoning change, and that's their right to do. It shouldn't come from a city or a city administration or a commission to say, go zone your property.
That's why I want to hear from the residents on that street. Okay? So you finish up, and then we're going.
Very good. So we've talked about the existing zoning and the existing general plan. The current property contains a single-family home and a detached garage. The proposal is to remove the detached garage and build 2 structures containing 2 units each for a total of 5 on the property. Multifamily high zoning would allow for the 5 units based on the size of the property. It would require 10 parking spaces, 2 per unit. They're proposing 10 parking spaces. Any development standards that would apply to multifamily would apply in this case, regardless of the small scale. They would have residential buffer requirements. They will have landscaping requirements. They will have operational requirements for parking access, that type of thing. This request is one that is not unusual in some parts of town, to have one property at a time want to rezone and ultimately maybe change the entire character of the neighborhood. But in this particular case, it is sort of an isolated spot. It is the only request for rezoning we have in this immediate area right now. So with that, staff has provided you the site plan, the existing zoning, the request by the property owners. We've also provided you an extensive list of comments by nearby property owners, primarily in opposition to the rezoning. All of that was attached to your staff report. I do not have anything in hand that came in after the information that you have. I do know that we have a number of folks here, both the property owner and his representative, as well as nearby property owners who want to speak. And with that, I will conclude the staff report, but I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to welcome the mayor to our meeting. Welcome, Mr. Mayor. Okay, was that it with that?
That's it
now,
for right now until you have questions.
The one thing I want to throw right out front, there's already a rehab property on this street. Therefore, there cannot be another one?
There are 2 in the immediate area that are within the 800 feet
so according
limitation.
To our,
this use could not be one based on our current
According to our new
code.
rules, then that's not even in the discussion.
Correct. For this
Because there will not be another one on that street. Okay. Right?
I can't guarantee that.
Well, if other uses leave, and some leave, then yeah.
That is correct. If other uses leave, it is possible.
That was mentioned in quite a few of the letters that we got, and
Yes.
I think that's a moot point as far as our discussion goes.
I think it's important to understand that most, the vast majority of our recovery homes in Prescott are in single-family homes. They have tended to shy away from multifamily settings for some reason.
Okay. All right. I'd like to hear from the developer, if he's present, would like to speak to us. Name and address.
Commissioners, Mark Pugh, 555 Lincoln Avenue. I'm the designer of the project. It seems pretty straightforward to me what our request is, and I might prefer at this particular point to simply field questions.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions of the developer? I mean, it's pretty straightforward what he wants to do. I agree with that. No? Okay. Thank you, sir. Just hang in there. We might have questions. Anyone? Okay. I'm going to open it up to the audience. Wetstein residents, let's hear from you if you've got something to say.
Good morning. I'm Paul Fyrick. I live at 5881 Nightshade in Prescott.
Okay.
Good morning again to Councilman Lamerson. I just want to stipulate for the record, I don't know anything about dancing. We're going to keep this really short. I don't live on Wetstein. I was asked by friends to come here this morning. We weren't sure how many people were going to be able to speak to this issue. They've got lots of detailed information. They live there. They've done a lot of research. When I was first asked about this, I asked friends that I knew about the Gressa family business, and everybody loves them. Everybody says they're real professional. They've been doing this for years. You know, they're reliable contractors and developers and investors, and I'm all for making money. The reason I bring that up is when the family limited partnership bought this lot, they knew full well it was single. They've had it for years. And they're the professionals. Why didn't they buy a lot with apartments somewhere else? They just anticipated that this body would approve them. And that's the only thing we can guess. The homeowners also knew what they were buying, and every one of the homeowners who's going to get up behind me and talk thought they were buying a single-family residential property. And that's going to pretty much be pulled out from underneath them. The family partnership is looking to make a lot more money by cramming more houses onto this, and that's just good business. And nobody faults them for the good business, but certainly these families that have bought into that neighborhood are going to lose. We don't know who the partnership is going to sell once they develop this property. Are they going to keep it and run it? Are they going to sell it to someone else? We don't have that kind of crystal ball.
Well, now sometimes, I mean, most times you got properties that go multifamily or commercial, they appreciate. They don't go down.
The houses in the neighborhood?
Yeah. I mean, if all of a sudden their neighbors are selling their properties for commercial multifamily, doesn't it affect all the properties in a positive way?
Well, that would be great if that were possible. Now, you just took off the list talking about sober houses and things like that because there's two in the proximity. But if that ever changes, and we don't know what day that's going to happen, again, none of us have a crystal ball, they are definitely going to lose a lot of their property. There are houses sprinkled all over Prescott that cannot be sold or are selling for a lot less because they happen to be right next door or looking down, and we know that's true.
But they're only going to get one in 800 feet, so on the block.
Okay.
Even if those two go away and another one comes in, you're only going to get one.
Sure. I'll let the follow-on speakers talk about traffic and their concerns.
Okay.
We're just saying that there are properties all over town, and the big word in this room seems to be grandfathered. You know, apparently the zoners and the permitters were not as smart as the current group are, and you're working by better standards, and yet there's just kind of stuff cattywampus. If you look at some of the residential multifamily lots, they still only have one house on a multifamily. Are they just saving that for a later day? Who knows? I just wanted to bring that all to your attention and just say that everyone here opposes this rezoning. They bought into a single-family residential area. It's their life savings in many cases. It's the most equity they have in their life. And I just urge P&Z to think about this and the impact on these people and not just the impact on the one developer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, the more of you, though, that we hear from, the better today. Are you acting as a spokesman?
I am not.
Okay, so we'd like to hear from as many of you as possible.
Thanks very much.
Hey, thank you. No question? Okay. Anyone else?
Hi. Once again, my name's Adam Thomas. I live at 928 Wetstein. Looking at it, the left-hand red line, my property sits, right there.
Okay.
All my bathrooms, my daughter's window, kitchen window, everything. The way I see it, the buildings being built will just eat up one side of my house. In fact, you'd be able to reach out and touch it or spit on it. And that would be the one on the left there. My family and I finally made it into Prescott, purchased our first home, scoured Prescott, scoured the neighborhoods, and we found a very unique hill. It's near the high school. That's where my daughter goes. It was surrounded by good people, good houses, single family, and that's why we bought it. I honestly did not know, you've talked about property rights and stuff like that. Had I known with a stroke of a pen an architect, and a bulldozer that my entire family, our way of life, and trust me, our property value will be deteriorating.
Now, you didn't know that you were buying next to multifamily zoning?
This is not multifamily.
What's right next to it?
That's zoning.
Okay. I knew what was there. I liked the neighborhood, all the neighbors. Did I know that? No, actually, I thought it was commercial. The lady who owned...
Commercial and multifamily are basically
pretty much the
You bet.
intermixed, so
You bet.
it depends.
Yes. I'm worried about the bulldozer, the demolition of the garage, the encroachment on what a little bit of privacy I thought I had between my neighbors and I. And I got to tell you, first shot into Prescott, I finally made it. Like I said, 5 generations. I made it. I knew what I was buying, and I was buying my home next to the proposed plan, and it's a beautiful place to be, and that's why I bought it there. That's all I have to say. There's no way I could be convinced that my house, mine was the original ranch house for the entire surrounding ranch, built in the 1950s. It's got charm. To tell me that if I bulldoze it and sell it to somebody for multifamily is going to make me profit somehow is absolutely wrong. Thank you.
Okay, but one thing, though, they could, on one of these 2 lots, the one next to your house, build a large custom home and be looking right at you, 5 feet away.
I could accept that. That's
Right.
what I accepted when I signed up.
So, okay.
I'm just, again, everybody behind me, we are an island. We like our island. It's low. It's not so high density. High density scares me. It scares me. It scares the way I want to raise my children. And I tell you, that could push a lot of good people out of this neighborhood, and there's no way we will make money. The only person that will make money is the person proposing this job. Per square foot, he'll make the money. We'll lose equity.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, we are Marcy and Jason Jacobs. We live at 924 Wetstein, so we're on the other side of this proposed property.
Okay.
As Adam mentioned, we have been waiting to move into Prescott as well. We moved here from Ohio a few years ago. I guess I should move this down because I'm so short. So I am a teacher at Prescott High School. So we were excited to buy our property because I'm so close to the school. I coach 2 sports there, and I'm at the school a lot. So I have to agree with Adam that I feel like this would infringe upon our privacy. The way the buildings are proposed to be set up, they're going to be close to both of our property lines. Currently, we have a view of thumb view from our deck, and that's one of the reasons why we bought the property, and we would definitely lose that view. So as far as I'm concerned, that would impact the value of our home. So.
Okay.
I'm also concerned about the safety, the issue that the street is the one way coming from, or that we can't come off of Gail Gardner. I just feel like this proposed plan would put more traffic on the street and also be unsafe for people walking, if they were walking on the street or whatever. I don't feel like there's enough space for that many people.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. Your property is to the east of the subject property?
Directly to the east, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Is not yours a duplex?
It is not.
It is not.
No.
No, it is not.
It is actually a single-family home. I'm currently working on it. I have to get permits and whatnot yet, but basically it's a single-family home. If I want to do a duplex, I have to do the 1-hour rating up in,
Has it been used as a duplex?
It's been used as, I believe, an office. Yeah, I believe it was used as an office.
But you're in the property that's zoned multifamily.
Yeah,
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. We would have to rebuild the whole thing if we wanted to do that.
And we have no desire to turn it into multifamily.
Why would you have to rezone it?
Okay.
We would have to redo the property.
If you got single-family or multifamily zoning, and you're currently single-family, you can do anything that multifamily zoning allows you to do within the property without having to do a zoning change.
Yeah, exactly, but we would still have to rebuild the property, the house itself.
Well, you'd have to get a site plan approved. and
Yes.
Go through the planning process.
Well, we wouldn't have to do any
and building
zoning,
permit.
no, you're correct.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
George?
Thank you.
They're planning how many units here?
10.
For the subject property, it's 5. There's an existing single-family
An
home
existing
that would
single
stay.
family and 2 duplexes.
2 duplexes, so a total of 5 units on this parcel.
And that's high density?
How many square feet, George? Just give me the approximate lot size, because they're not
Yeah, I
on
don't
the...
recall the
Oh, they're only covering a quarter of the lot.
0.41
So
acres
there's
for the
20
parcel.
Just under 20,000
In order to get
square
the 5 units, they need the multifamily high zoning. Multifamily medium would only get them 4 units
Okay.
on the property.
So
So
it's
they
a little
requested
less than
multifamily high.
20,000 square
We're
foot
still
lot.
just talking 2 duplexes.
And they also were looking at the existing zoning in the area, and their description to us before submitting for the rezoning, they looked at something that would be similar to surrounding zonings before asking for the
Okay.
multifamily high.
Anybody else?
Morning, my name is Mike Wagner. I reside at 927 Wetstein, and I strongly oppose this going on over there. For one reason, basically, is my biggest concern is the safety of the people that go traveling down that street, walking down that street, up it and down it. There's no sidewalks. There's so much traffic, school buses, garbage trucks, Walmart trucks drive down there, and there's people with handicap wheelchairs that drive their wheelchairs up that hill, and there's just so much traffic. And to add this multifamily duplexes with this many more vehicles parking in there, this road is going to be a dirt road in less than a year with all that traffic going on. I'm telling you, it's decrepit. It's tore up
It's
bad.
in pretty bad shape now.
It is, and I've had to call the city several times to get the potholes patched and everything like that, and it's just in terrible shape. I just don't see that with that many people moving into there, and even though it may not be a lot to you, but to me it is, and I just think it's dangerous. Somebody's going to get killed there pretty soon if that doesn't get taken care of. And I don't think by adding more people in our neighborhood with that duplexes going in is going to help it at all. So I strongly oppose that, and if you have any questions, then...
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I was pretty shocked when I saw that the traffic study that one of the residents pulled out, and the number of accidents on the corner of Willow Creek and Wetstein. That was pretty amazing. Is the person who pulled that information out here? Could they talk about it?
Hi.
Hi.
Tina Murray, 929 Wetstein.
Okay.
There's been a total of 67 accidents on the west and east ends of Weststein Avenue.
Wow.
And I did include a printout for you guys from the Prescott Police Department, courtesy of Joyce Marshall, and she's the record supervisor. It contains 54 accidents noted on Gail Gardner. 32 of those are at the intersection on Weststein and Gail Gardner. Of those 32, 10 with injuries, 9 non-injuries, and the remaining 13 accidents do not provide the intel if they had injuries or not. So we, think that it's still just too many accidents on that end of the street. Now, with the remaining 22 accidents happening one street over to the north at the end of such a small street, that's over on Black Drive. We've got 4 with injuries, 9 non-injuries, and 8 accidents with no intel. And there's also been 13 accidents noted on the intersection of Weststein Avenue and Willow Creek Road, 9 injuries and 6 non-injuries. So to us, it's kind of clear that adding more buildings and more multifamily high density is only going to increase the severity, of this problem for safety. And, one day alone, I actually counted how many people, and that was just on one day, was walking up and down Wetstein. And I don't know the length of the street there. It's not a real long street. It's pretty short. But what I counted was an average between 40 and 50 people. The one day alone was 46 people that I counted. So I averaged it out. And those are people, pedestrians, and they're walking up and down because it's kind of a walk through there going to Walmart and the other shopping. We have a lot of garbage that gets thrown on our street. from people coming from Walmart, their cups, their cigarette butts. We've had the occasional condom, the occasional used drug needle that's thrown on our street that we're out there picking up. So I see this being a more people, more buildings, more of this going on. As far as the traffic, we got buses down the street. I don't know if you want to show any of these. I got plenty of these pictures here.
We provided those to the.
Yeah, we've got
Are you gonna show them on
almost,
your thing?
yeah, we got a lot of
So these
photos.
people can see
Yeah.
back here.
Now, this goes back to '05, huh? The results that Joyce gave you? Yeah.
That's what they would only give me
Okay,
till now, yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Just since '05.
And this is currently Wetstein Street. This is what our roads look like. They've been like this for a really long time. The city comes out rarely. They do a little patch here and a patch there. It's never been done real well. So having more buildings and more people is obviously going to impact our streets. We've got buses from the high school that come down every day. We got the trucks. We've got the fire department that uses it. They come the opposite way because they're allowed to, I guess, because they're emergency vehicles. So another question and stuff that I have it just about the roads and stuff in general. We have no sidewalks for people walking, but the one on the bottom right, this is actually going west to east, going up the hill. And all the time people are walking. Mike had mentioned people are walking, and when they're going back up to hit Willow Creek Road, they tend to walk on this side of the street. And that little hill there, it doesn't look like much, but it is a huge blind spot. And I am always getting people, when I see people walking and I'm home, please walk on the right side of the road because these cars cannot see you, and these kids get air from Prescott High School, and there's been multiple times you hear the screeching of the brakes, and they're trying, they're catching air, and then there's people walking up that hill, and it's very dangerous. So that's a real problem there. There used to be a sign on the left side of that picture that said blind driveway. I don't know where it went. It's been gone for years. But there was a sign there at one point. I don't know how much it helped, but there was a sign there. So that is a huge concern for us. The pedestrians walking up and down, it's definitely not safe. So, and right at the top of that hill, there's another picture that shows the Grethus home. Keep going. Hopefully it's in that pack. Going. Oh.
This one?
No. Maybe it's in. You guys have it, but there's a picture that actually shows part of the Gress's house and how bad the road is right there. But they're right on that hill where this home is going to be developed, or they're hoping to propose these duplexes, and it's right at the top of that hill. So I just don't see how it's going to benefit the safety of the pedestrians, the accidents there. And another question I have, maybe it's for the architect, is they're on this hill and their property goes like this. Are they building up with a bunch of dirt? Are these duplexes going to be on stilts? They're right on the peak of the hill there. So how does that affect the neighbors and the fences and more dirt being filled in? And are there going to be fences put up or concrete put up, or
Well, that's nothing
that's not anything you guys deal with?
consider. That's a building department issue.
Okay.
Now, if they split this lot and built 2 single-family houses, then if they built the way they propose to build it, they're actually adding 3 units then. You really think that's a lot of extra traffic on a street that long?
I do.
Do you object
because
to whether or not they split it and built 2 single-family houses?
I don't see how they could
based
put
on
2
the size of the lot,
single-family houses on
they
there.
can put 2 single-family houses on that particular property, plus the existing house that's on it. That's 3 units. We're talking about 5 units, and in some of the comments, they keep talking about high density. High density is 38 to 40 units per acre. It's not a duplex with 3 or 4 or 5 units per half acre.
Okay.
Would it help us, George, to have the traffic engineer look at some of this stuff?
Well, we do include our traffic engineer in the review process for all of our plans. So this rezoning went to him for comment.
Oh, it did? I think
There were no proposed comments or changes to the design based on the 5 units.
he's going to be here on in May, right? Maybe we can,
Yeah. The condition of the existing street is not something that we talk about.
No.
The city
Okay.
periodically repaves streets,
Okay.
and that condition is something that is taken care of during that process, not necessarily something subject to a condition of a development.
okay, except the Wetstein residents, they have the mayor's attention here.
Well, I think the big concern is the roads are bad, there's a lot of pedestrians.
There's a lot of physical-
Adding 10 parking spots, we know there's going to be more parking on the street.
Yeah.
If they have guests or whatever over too, they're going to be parking like this, hopefully they got good emergency brakes. We already have had one vehicle that kind of slid down because of a parking brake on the hill. We have had that already.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I appreciate
we
your
have a lot of
comments.
concerns,
I think we got the idea.
Okay.
Anybody else? Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mark Parent. I'm at 929 Wetstein Avenue. I'll make this short and sweet. I oppose it. It's going to be bad for our neighborhood. You say it's not a big deal, but that's 4 more families on that street than we had before.
Well,
So it is a big deal to us.
I realize that.
I know. You label it however you want, that I understand that. But for us, we oppose it, and that's basically, I just wanted to get my name on here and let you guys know
What I
that.
was trying to get at is, if I said I was going to take that existing property, which is large enough to accommodate more, and said I'm going to build 1 more single-family house on it, would the neighbors be objecting then also?
I see.
And if they would, then it's not in my neighborhood.
Sure.
Which affects our decision-making, rather than saying, is it within reason to say we're going to increase the density on the size of that property by 4 units? Because there's an existing house on it.
Right.
And that's what I'm looking to try to make a decision on.
Sure.
I can't satisfy every neighbor's requirements in terms of how they wind up handling the dirt, the fill, the street.
Sure.
I mean, the planning commission might come back when they come in with their plans and say, based on what you're doing to this area, we want you to put curbs, gutters, and sidewalks and redo the streets in front of the house. And if the developer decides it's not worth it to me, then he walks away from it. But that's their prerogative. Ours is, do we think the appropriate zoning for that particular property, along with what's existing, is an appropriate zoning for a piece, or is this another section of spot zoning that was done 15, 20 years ago that creates a number of problems within the city? So,
Okay.
Thank you for
Hey,
listening.
thank you. Anybody else? Okay.
Can I say my name again? Marcy Jacobs again. I think I understand what you guys are saying with the size of the property and such, but I think the thing that is not being taken into consideration here is the fact that this property sits at the top of the hill. It is at the top of the entire neighborhood. Putting those units on that property is going to invade everybody's privacy and change the dynamic of the neighborhood drastically. I mean, it's just... and we had a little bit of a discussion about the recovery homes, and this couldn't be one at this point, but if it does turn into one and those people are overlooking the entire neighborhood, I think that is a huge concern for everybody in the neighborhood.
Yeah, but that's really hypothetical.
I understand that.
Okay.
I'm just saying that
Okay.
that in terms of the size of the property, I think also the dynamic of where it is located on the street is important to note.
Okay. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes, sir, if I could, one more.
Sure.
There's a lot of talk about hypothetical and the rehab facilities. The gentleman here already explained that there's 1 or 2 in the neighborhood. One of them, again, happens to be bordering my property on the north side.
Okay.
It's there. Every day, there are 10 to 12 people smoking within a spitting distance of my house.
Okay.
As soon as that shuts down, hypothetically, if there's profit in it, the one being built now, you shut one down, you move them in next door to me. That is not hypothetical at all. It's a concern. Just one last of many that I have. But I will tell you this, guys. This would push me out of Prescott. I worked my whole life to get here and raise my family here. I can't afford to relocate. I can't afford a $750,000 home in Williamson Valley. I thought I finally made it. And if this is the way it works around here, I promised my family and my neighbors, when the bulldozers start up, I'm out of there. Like I said, then they can level mine as well.
Okay.
I lose money, can't afford another house.
Okay.
But that's my way of life.
Thanks for
grew up here, 5 generations.
Thanks for your comments. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Jamie Stewart, 931 Whetstein. And I walk on that street almost every day. What those pictures don't show is another 8+ cars parked on it. When you come over that hill, it's narrow. There's not always enough room for 2 cars to pass. The whole street is an accident waiting to happen, and adding people to it does not solve the problem. Yeah, you do have some zoning issues there. You're trying to figure out, well, what do we do with it? Now, the only thing I can say is look at Black Drive. That seems to work. Everyone's happy with it. I don't have problems with it. As it stands now, I can't make left turns out on one side and right turns on the other. Now I have to go all the way around and make right turns. The streets are atrocious. It's been over 10 years since they've been paved. I have a bicycle, I have a motorcycle, I have issues with the potholes in those. They come out, they patch them, the patches are there for maybe 3-4 months before they fall out. I think it's just a very bad idea. I'm opposed to it. I know, yeah, they can split the lot and they could put a house on each side. Can't stop them from doing that. If they want to do it, fine. If there's one less house on there, I'm happy.
Okay. Okay.
That's all I got to say.
We got it.
Sir, just for clarification, are you the second lot in from Gail Gardner?
Yes.
So yours is also zoned?
It's zoned BG, as I recall.
What is it?
The other way, yeah.
Business general?
No.
He's on the south side of the street.
Oh, he's on
Right.
the south. Okay.
And isn't he in this?
It's business general zoning.
Business general.
That's correct.
So those 2 houses in off of Gail Gardner are both business general,
That's correct.
across from multifamily high.
That's correct, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
I just have another question.
Hmm.
You guys were talking a little bit earlier about the community plan and how somehow this got overlooked. Is there a plan for this area?
Not a
or was
neighborhood,
there,
not a
or
neighborhood plan,
not a
no.
neighborhood
See,
plan?
Gail Gardner specifically in 2000 got together with the residents got together with the planning department, and they developed a specific neighborhood plan that all the neighbors kind of wanted. There's none in this area. Though the Willow Creek corridor plan only basically covers commercial along Willow Creek Road.
Okay.
And like two lots in maybe.
And that plan was devised at the time that the city was planning to do all the major widening of Willow Creek Road. So they were taking into account what would happen to the properties that adjoined Willow Creek.
But there is the general plan, and this
Right,
would
there is
require
the general
change to the
plan.
general plan.
And what is the general plan?
General plan is a potential land use for the future. In other words, if you've got a particular street and it's changing, and there's a terminology in real estate that's called economic obsolescence. You got a property that's been there for 65, 70 years. Economically, it's not to the highest and best use. It's on a major corridor, so it should be torn down and redone and redeveloped into something that's going to produce more dollars per tax dollar for the property because it's obsolete what's there. So a general plan is basically an outline. It isn't fixed in concrete. That says in these areas where you've got high traffic, you should have areas set aside for commercial. You should have an area set aside for high density. High density is 3, 4, 5, 6 story. apartments. It should have low density, which are duplexes and threeplexes. And then as you further and further get away from the high traffic areas, you get into the residential neighborhoods where there's single family and there's a number of requirements for different size lots and things. So it's doing it based on economics, and it's a general outline of what's happening within a community. And can an individual who owns a piece of property on a high-density corner, is it logical to knock down an 80-year-old obsolete building that's got termites and whatever and turn around and build a new modern house on it? And the answer is no. But what's needed there? Well, maybe it's a small little retail center that you got a dry cleaner, you got a beauty shop, you got whatever, and they've taken it to a higher and better use, and that's what the general plan is identifying. It's a potential land use plan. It's not a social document, even though there's a whole section of the general plan devoted to a wish list. We'd like to have cleaner lakes. We'd like to have whatever. But those are wishes, and we ask developers as they're developing property to keep those things in mind in terms of open space, tying into trails, access to the particular trails so that we can keep the quality of life and still allow for a certain amount of orderly development. And that was what the purpose of the legislation that was passed Growing Smarter some 15 years ago. So,
okay.
Do you guys see a big problem with what's happening right here? And if so, what is the solution?
Yeah, we see the problems constantly because, again, with spot zoning, which went on for 50 years since the 30s, we're left with these particular isolated incidents.
And you are too.
Yeah,
Where
we're all stuck with it.
we're trying to do what's best for the property owner and say to him, you will not do this, or yes, you have certain rights, and then allow him to develop his property based on the rights that's inherent with property ownership, and also to satisfy the concerns of the neighborhoods that they're not going to do something that's going to be obnoxious and so detrimental to the neighborhood.
You had a comment?
Two comments. Tina, I met Tina last night on the street, and my wife was wondering where I was. She was very informative. I learned a lot more about the case last night. But Tina, you might want to pick up a copy of the general plan.
Okay.
This is just, the ink is just dry on it. George, is there any way you can put up, I can't see that general plan map. Do we have anything here today that would show that street with any clarity?
This area, just specifically the general plan designation?
In the overall
general plan.
Probably not. It's a hard map.
The scale is so small.
Yeah,
Is it in your book, Ken?
It is.
Yeah,
You really can't see it well. It's a terrible.
It's an 11 by 17 that covers the entire city of Prescott and all the outlying areas. You wouldn't be able to see anything.
It should be a 4x4.
Okay, anybody, anything else? Anybody else like to speak?
I've got a couple of questions, Tom. One, it does, this request does, in addition to rezoning, requires amendment of the general plan and the Willow Creek corridor plan. So it's similar to the last one. It's three hurdles, not just one. And then a little aside to the developer, I can't read the contour elevations on your drawing. I see the finished floor, but I can't read the contours. And that's always a question for me, does it physically fit well on the property? So for the next time, if that could be clarified, I'd appreciate it.
We will make sure that's on there.
Thanks.
Is it appropriate to readdress the commission, perhaps address some of the questions?
Perfectly welcome to Mark.
And Commissioner Gardner, those are 1-foot contours.
Yeah, but I need a base number.
Where you see elevation 94 for the surface parking, that's very close to existing grade.
So the one right through the center of the parking lot's 94?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And I too have been in Prescott forever. I've rented on Wetstein Avenue. Single family residence. I rented it for about 6 years. My experience living on Wetstein Avenue is that it's a natural progression from the shopping center from Willow Creek Road. The amount of traffic that I saw when I lived there was almost exclusively people other than what lived on Wetstein Avenue. That's a problem. I don't know how you fix that problem. That has been that way for a long time. I suspect that's why they made it one way, so that you couldn't turn from Gail Gardner, onto Wetstein Avenue and cut the loop out on your access over to Willow Creek Road. The number of accidents that are referred to here, seems high at a glance. If I understood the statistics, those were taken from 2005 to present.
Mm-hmm.
In a 10-year period, we've got 64 accidents, half roughly on one end, half roughly on the other end. 10-year period to have 3 accidents on a very heavily traveled road such as Gail Gardner. I don't find that to be real unusual. My next question would be, how many of those accidents involved residents from Wetstein Avenue? If we're going to increase the traffic flow on Wetstein Avenue, that is the concern, and we're tying that to the number of accidents that we're having there. I think that would be an interesting statistic to look at. My guess is, again, that we've got transitory, travel through there that those accidents probably aren't in large part by the residents that are there. The next thing that occurs to me is we are at the crown of Wetstein Avenue. Having stood at the crown of Wetstein Avenue, we probably have the best visibility in both directions of anybody on the property. If you're just down from the crown on either side, you definitely have a dangerous situation. This actually has really good visibility on both sides. As far as the amount of traffic that parks on the street, I believe that with what the parking we're providing there, we certainly wouldn't add to that problem. We'd probably alleviate that. And if we've got single-family residences and there is a problem with parking on the street as it is, perhaps that should be addressed in terms of parking signs and restricting that as it is. This seems to me we do have an island in the middle of a ton of commercial, and we're bordered on all sides by multifamily. When we originally took a look at this piece of property, with the overall thinking, we've got a huge professional market that needs a small apartment to live in within walking distance. We've got all of 12th Street, which is nothing but professional complexes, mostly medical. We've got Walmart right next door. We've got businesses to the north. We've got the high school, as was mentioned, not too far away. All of this was taken into consideration. The other thing, I know that this rehab thing is such a hot spot, all the way through the city. I just wonder, with any of those homes that are on Wetstein Avenue, let's just say that there wasn't Carlton Center on the corner, that there wasn't whoever is to the north, et cetera. Could any of these residents, if somebody walked up to them and said, I will pay you $4,000 a month to rent your house to a 6 non-related people, would they be able to do that?
Well, there's limitations on how many houses there can be on one within a certain distance.
My point's the same. If those 2 places weren't there, could any of these residents do that?
Sure. Yeah.
And any other questions, I'd be more than happy to answer to the best of my ability.
Okay. Well, those are some good points. Anybody else? I'm still a little up in the air. I think I'm going to leave. I'm not going to close the public hearing. I'm going to. I want each person to kind of give me a lead on what they're thinking on this, because I'm going to have to make a decision whether we want to postpone it. So, Joe?
Well, I don't think I'm ready today.
Okay.
Anyway, wouldn't it be, is this a regular item, or is this a?
It's a public hearing item. You could take action today, but we've left you the opportunity to extend that public hearing.
You just given me your answer.
Yeah.
David?
I think I need more information as well. I'm very troubled, very concerned about the level of neighborhood opposition to this proposal. On the other hand, we're talking about a lot
an island
design.
Yeah, I know.
Is it appropriate for us to say to a developer who owns a multifamily lot, you can't have multifamily housing on that lot? So I'm sort of wrestling with that.
Okay. George, what do you think? We need a postponement on this?
Yeah, it just doesn't look to me as if the impacts are going to be that significant. For one thing, it's not a dance hall, it's family. Whether it's multifamily or single family, it's still family, and it's not high density.
Would you like a little more time on it?
I think I'd like more time on it, yeah.
I think I've probably expressed some of my thoughts. I certainly need more time. I'm confused by the whole neighborhood situation.
Okay.
You know, I could go along with additional information also, so to make it unanimous.
Yeah, I personally want to take another drive out there.
More information
Because
is always-
some of the descriptions were not what I saw, so I need to go out and look again and get a feel for things, so.
Mr. Chairman, if the commissioners have specific things that they would like us to gather for them or information
Okay.
that the property owner can provide to you, if you can express that in your motion, that would be helpful. If not, if you can tell us as clearly as you can later, we'll make sure that information is gathered together and put back out in an agenda packet. It would be available to any of the interested nearby residents as well.
Well, I think I'd like a little more description from the traffic engineer on that street and the amount of traffic and the intersection and how it relates to that particular street. That's the only specific thing I can think of. But
Thank you.
I think we're going to go ahead and ask for a motion. I'm going to leave the public hearing open. Ask for I hate to kick things down the can down the road, but this is important, I think, because there's enough opposition to it. So I'll entertain a motion to continue or to postpone.
Second.
Is it?
You can, either one.
Either one.
You're
Okay.
continuing the public hearing or postponing
Continue
action.
the public hearing, postpone the action. Okay?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any
Who
further?
made the original motion?
Is there,
I'll make the original motion.
I thought you
and,
made it.
David
and a date
Springer.
specific?
I kind of did, but David.
Is it your, I'm sorry, is it your intention to defer this to the same date that you deferred
Yes.
the previous? Okay, very good.
Yes, to May 28th, 28th.
28th.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
And one other piece that would help would be maybe a little better description of the Willow Creek corridor, you know, try to blow that out. Both of the plans were, the general plan, a little more information on, were those basically just a line drawn down Willow Creek that X number of feet it's going to be
Okay,
commercial?
I do have something that's specific to the area that's just to the east of this location, and we can provide that information. It describes what they were.
Yeah, I
thinking.
agree. I'd kind of like to know how you went from that tiny general plan to specifically saying this street is single family. That's,
And perhaps you would have requested this a second ago, and maybe if the commissioners will send you notes of what they might like, but I'd sure like to see how that property on the west end got zoned multifamily.
Yes.
And what, if we have any dialogue from that as to when that happened and how it happened. Certainly, I understand the stuff along Willow Creek Road as the corridor, but boy, there's just nothing here that has continuity.
okay, I have a motion, right? And a second, right? All those in favor, raise your right hand, say aye. Okay,
Aye.
we're continued to May 28th?
Yes.
Yeah, correct. All right, anything else, George? City updates, current events?
Nothing comes to mind, sir. Thank you.
We're adjourned.